Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Vasu. Happy to see you again.
Thank you, sir.
How are you?
I'm good, sir.
And everyone at home?
Everyone are good, sir.
Nobody suffered from corona later on after our previous interview?
No, sir. Hopefully, no one contracted coronavirus and all got vaccinated in sufficient recently.
You also got vaccinated?
Yes, sir.
Good. We pray that it continues the same way. Now, please tell us,
Yes,
what
sir.
is the date of your interview?
Sir, it's 3rd of August.
Okay. So imagine by 3rd of August, what are national or international issues which you will take into consideration?
So may I take a few seconds to thank you. So may I?
Yeah.
So the COVID pandemic would be there. So that would be the first and foremost issue. Apart from that, because 5th of August would be approaching, so Jammu and Kashmir issue might again crop up, the Gupkar meeting. At the international front, we can see that the Iran's new prime minister would be swearing in. So some develop.
President.
My pleasure, sir. So we can see some movement on that front also, and the Olympics would also be taking place in the next month. So these would be some international issues and national issues which should be making headlines by then.
What happens in Afghanistan?
Yes, I forgot to mention that. That would be there.
There are reports that China has undertaken some major military advance in Tibet. Have you heard of it?
My apologies, sir.
Yeah. Did you hear the question?
My apologies, sir. Just a second, sir.
You are muted, huh? Yeah.
Sorry, sir, for the disturbance.
Yeah. China has undertaken some major military maneuvers in Tibet. Have you heard of them?
Sir, I'm not aware of that, sir. I'll read upon that.
How does India seek to respond to these Chinese aggressive intents?
So any such attempt by any country is an attack on the sovereignty and territorial sovereignty of our nation. And that should not be taken lightly. And there should be swift and rhetoric response in that. So if we see recently, whether there was some developments at the Pangong Lake or last year in Ladakh region. So India has taken a very categorical and a strict stand on that. And I think that should continue because that is an issue of territorial sovereignty and independence of the country.
What is Special Frontier Force?
Sir, I'm not aware of that, sir. Sorry, sir.
Okay. Should statehood be restored to Jammu Kashmir?
So that is a issue which the government has also given a declaration in the parliament on the floor of the house that the statehood would be restored to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. However, I think that there should be first restoring the statehood. There should be some developments or some steps taken in that on that front. So if elections are taken place, then it could show or it could manifest what's the mood of the people. So we could have a more understanding of what's happening at the grassroots level and what people want. So I think before statehood, elections can give a good picture of the current scenario.
Do you see any link between America's withdrawal from Afghanistan and Government of India's initiative in Jammu Kashmir?
So, if Afghanistan has been a state which has been under conflict, and it has given, or there has been different terrorist organizations developing in that area. So when the USA is vacating the Afghanistan, there are issues that those organizations might get more territories and more power, and thus the India's stand on Jammu and Kashmir becomes more important, because Afghanistan through Pakistan, the organizations can get a direct access to Jammu and Kashmir. In that way, I think the internal security of the state and of the nation becomes more important, and thus we need to have more of a frontier force on that front.
What is Juvenile Justice Act?
Yes, sir. Sir, it is an act to ensure for two purposes. First, so to ensure that the children who are in need and care, they get adequate protection and rehabilitation. And second, the juvenile delinquents, or the children who have done some offense, how to treat them. So what kind of rehabilitation center, the trial mechanism would go on. So these two category of children are taken care of through JJ Act.
Why is there this presumption that no crime can take place until the kid reaches 18?
Yes, sir. Sir, my apologies, sir, but I would like to say there, and under the IPC, it said that this blanket exemption on the from age is till the age of 7, and from 7 to 12, a kid can commit an offense, but that would depend on the understanding or his maturity level, and beyond that, it depends on what kind of punishment is to be given to him. And such kind of exceptions on basis of age is given because in a crime, one of the essential ingredient is mens rea. So unless and until a person has a guilty mind or guilty intention to commit the offense, that offense will not be completed. And it is understood in criminal jurisprudence that a child below a certain age cannot have that guilty intention.
Good. Over to you, Balla sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Vasu. How are you?
I'm good, sir.
Good. Good to have you again.
Thank you, sir.
Tell me, since you are a law student, you are well versed with the Constitution of India. Which article of Constitution of India provides for the Vice President?
Sir, if I'm not wrong, it is Article 61.
You are absolutely wrong.
My apologies, sir. Apologies.
Which amendment of the Constitution reduced the age of voting from 21 years to 18 years?
So it was 69th Constitutional Amendment.
It was?
69th.
No, absolutely wrong. It was not 69th.
Sir, my apologies. Then I'll read about it, sir.
Tell me, Article 58 provides for, the qualifications for contesting for the elections to the President of India. What is the minimum and maximum age which is prescribed under that article?
Yes, sir. Sir, the minimum age is the age of 35 years, and there is no such maximum age under that provision.
Very correct. States Reorganization Act was passed in 1956.
Yes, sir.
What was the number of states at that time?
Sir, I'm not very sure, but I guess there were 14 states at that time.
Be sure about it.
Sir.
In Indian Constitution, the idea of a union of states was taken from which constitution of the world?
Yes, sir. Sir, it was taken from the Constitution of Canada.
No, you are absolutely wrong. Concept of concurrent list, Article 108 and joint sitting of the two houses, it was taken from which constitution?
Sir, I'm not aware of this. Sir.
All these things have been taken from the Australian Constitution.
Okay, sir. Thank you sir, for enlightening me.
What is the quorum to constitute a meeting of the Lok Sabha?
So that is 10% of the total membership of the House.
1/10. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Finance Commission is provided under which article of the Constitution of India?
So, Article 280, sir.
Article 280. Tell me the year of formation of National Capital Territory.
Yes, sir. Sir, the Act provides 1991.
It is not 1991. The exact formation happened on 1st February 1992.
My apologies, sir.
Since you have chosen Delhi, you should know about it. How many districts are there in Delhi?
So there are 11 districts in Delhi.
Good. Who founded Delhi?
Sir, the city of Delhi was, if we see the first city, that was by the Lal Kot city, that was by Prithviraj Chauhan.
Who was the founder of Delhi city?
So there are different cities. There are 7 cities in Delhi, and the first city was that. But if we talk about the center of Delhi, Shahjahan, who founded is Shahjahan.
Have you heard the name Anang Pal Tomar?
Yes, sir. Raja Anang Pal Tomar.
What was his contribution to Delhi?
Sir, Kila Rai Pithura.
Which poet of Delhi was known as Parrot of India?
Sir, is it Mr. Ghalib?
No.
I'm not sure.
Absolutely wrong. It's a very, very famous poet.
I'm not sure, sir. Sorry, sir.
Amir Khusro. Who was the first? You should know about the history and culture of Delhi. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? That is why I am asking. Who was the first Muslim ruler of Delhi?
Sir, that was Kutubuddin Aibak, sir.
Very correct. Delhi was known as a sultanate before the empire.
Yes, sir.
How many dynasties they ruled Delhi Sultanate?
So there were 5 different dynasties in Delhi Sultanate.
Absolutely correct. What was the capital of Alauddin Khilji?
So Alauddin Khilji was in Khilji dynasty, and if I'm not wrong, Delhi should be the capital of Alauddin Khilji.
No. It was not.
Sorry.
It was not. At that time, Siri, nowadays known as Siri Fort, Siri was his capital.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One of the part of Delhi.
Yes, one of the parts of Siri. Who was the first chief minister of Delhi?
Some Mr. Balwant.
No, absolutely wrong. You have forgotten about famous Chaudhary Brahm Prakash.
Sorry, sir. I remember.
Sorry, will not do in the interview, sir. Who was the first Lieutenant General of Delhi?
Sir, I'm not aware of this, sir.
You have not heard of A.N. Jha?
My apologies, sir. I'll read more about him.
Delhi and its urban areas, they were constituted into NCR, National Capital Region. By which amendment of the constitution it was done?
Sir, as far as I am aware, for NCR, there is no such constitutional amendment. However, there is an NCR Act which provides for the NCR region.
Are you sure?
So, there is Article 239 AA which provides for special status to Delhi.
Okay, tell me, what is the rank of Delhi in the largest urban areas of the world? Is it first rank or second rank?
So I'm not sure of this, sir.
Delhi is highly polluted and the land pollution is characterized by solid waste. How much solid waste per day is produced and how much is handled by the municipal corporation?
Sir, I'm not aware of this fact, sir.
It's very important. There is a huge gap. That is why on the Gazipur border, you see that huge mountain of solid waste lying there for open oxidation. Nothing is being done to treat it. You should know about Delhi. Over to Madam.
Hello, Vasu.
Hello, ma'am.
So I was looking at your DEF. You have done LLB or BA LLB?
Ma'am, it's BSc LLB.
BSc LLB. But in your DEF, you have only written LLB.
Ma'am, it was a computerized form and the only option it was a choose down menu. It was only LLB showing there.
So why you chose BSc LLB?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I think it is being offered in very few law colleges, isn't it? BSc LLB.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I guess within the NLUs, there are only 5 NLUs, including Nalsar, NLU Jodhpur, GNLU, which offers BSc NLB.
Okay, so why you offered BSc LLB and you did it from JNLU, Gujarat National University, right? Tell me.
Ma'am, BSc LLB provides us with the integration of law and science. And within
That
science,
I
there is...
understand. What are those papers which you
Yes, ma'am.
studied to do
Ma'am,
BSc LLB and why it prompted you rather than BLLB?
ma'am, so some papers, science papers, had a direct link with legal subjects. For example, forensic science, advanced science, which had a direct link with the criminal jurisprudence. So these were the subjects which intrigued me to taking up BSc LLB.
Okay, so what are those special papers which you, because forensic science nowadays is being taught in LLB in some final semester side, we teach these subjects. What are those basic papers? Like in first year BLLB student study political science, sociology, etc. BBLLB studies some financial management or some papers of that sort. So what are those basic papers which you studied in your first year?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we studied advanced science, biotechnology, nanotechnology, then forensic science was one of the papers. So these are some of the papers in BSc.
Okay. So since you're a law student and I'm a law professor, it will be a good combination to ask some good questions.
Yes, ma'am.
That the people, will also enjoy, I hope. Let's talk about torts.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you comfortable?
Yes, ma'am.
There are very many maxims in law of torts since it's not a codified law, unlike, law of crimes or law of contract. So basically law of torts is based on some jurisprudence, which is based on certain, maxims. So will you tell me some maxims or I'll ask you and then you will define it?
Whichever way suits you, ma'am.
I give you the opportunity first.
Ma'am, some maxims are like ubi just ibi remedium, which means that where there is a right, there is a remedy. Then damnum sine injuria and injuria sine damnum.
Go back. You said ubi just, ubi remedium. I say ubi remedium, ubi just. These are two theories, pigeonhole theory, what we call, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So just elaborate upon that.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, if we see a right and remedy are both complementary to each other. So if we have a right without a remedy, then right will become only on the paper. It won't have any efficacy, which is also seen under Article 32. Similarly, when there is a remedy, it means that we are having a claim, and a claim can only be there when we have certain right in that. And connecting it with the pigeonhole theory, so that essentially entails that, which is a debate between Pollock, Winfield, and Salmond on one hand, which says that some Pollock argues that all the civil wrong actions are tortious actions, irrespective whether they fall under a specified category or not, which has been qualified by Salmond, which says that only those civil wrong actions who fall under a specified defined tortious liability. For example,
which one is true in our context?
Ma'am, practically, if we see, we follow law of torts, that is the pigeonhole theory. But because the law is expanding, we bring in law of tort, that is the theory of Pollock, to expand the jurisprudence of law of tort. And if I'm a quote, so in R&D, that is Ratanlal and Dheeraj Lal, they used a very good expression to explain this, that this debate is like treating a tree as a living being and a non-living being. For all practical purpose, it is non-living, because if you are going to collide with it, it won't move.
Ratanlal, Dheeraj Lal, or you have not read Bangia?
Ma'am, I have read both, ma'am.
Bangia is, further very, very common commentary among the law.
Yes, ma'am.
Because Ratanlal, Dheeraj Lal is more popular for the criminal law, for IPC. Of course, they have written other subjects also. Yeah. So the other maxim, damnum sine injuria, injuria sine damnum.
Yes, ma'am.
So give one example through the case law of both of them.
Ma'am, injuria
sine. Know the meaning of these maxims.
Ma'am, injuria sine damnum, that is injury without damage. It would be Ashby versus White. Should I explain this case, ma'am?
No need. Okay. Go for the other one.
and for the other case, it's Gloucester Grammar case.
Yeah. So Gloucester Grammar, you can explain a bit.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, yes. Ma'am, there was a school which was running, and it had certain number of students. A rival school came up next to it, and the number of students reduced in the former school, and thus there was a loss incurred to that. And that school argued, the first school argued, that because there is a rival school, I am incurring some damage or loss. Now he went to the court claiming damages for that. The court said, although you have incurred damage, we acknowledge that there is a loss in your books, but no right of yours has been infringed. And because there is no legal right infringed, you cannot get any legal remedy.
Correct, very correct. Okay, what about res ipsa loquitur?
That we study under negligence. It says that things speak for themselves. For example, if there is negligence, then there are certain acts which are very evident that there has been negligence on the part of the defendant. And the
what is the concept of remoteness of damages in law?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, when we talk about any tortious claim, there are 3 stages, and the third stage is the damage, how to ascertain damage. And in that, we need to check whether the damage are coming directly or coming as a result of the action of the defendant or not. So in that, we have 2 tests, that is direct action test, and the second test is reasonable foreseeability test.
What is this Donagh versus Stevenson case related to?
And that is related to negligence, and which established the principle of duty to care.
Duty to take care. Okay. Maybe a little bit of criminal law you like or not?
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
You like. Okay. So just tell me a very, very basic question. Difference between common intention and common object.
Yes, ma'am.
With some case law examples,
yes,
because you are a law student.
Ma'am, this is a discussion or debate between section 34 and section 149 of IPC.
Okay.
Common intention says that
if you can refer to Barendra Kumar Ghosh case to explain the difference between these two.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, in that case, there was a murder in the post office, or loot and along with murder in the post office, and there are different accused. So some accused and were in the murder. One of the accused were engaged in. So some accused were there in looting. One accused were there in murder, and some accused were guarding the gates of the post office. So in that, it was argued that the how should be quantum, or what is the liability of each accused. And in that, the court said that because they all had the my apologies, sir, ma'am, because they all had the common intention of robbing the post office, and in the same line of action, murder is a natural consequence of this robbing. They all had the common intention, and thus they would be booked under section 34 would be applied here. And common object, on the other hand, would say that wherein there is unlawful assembly, firstly, and in furtherance of that, they had common object. That means they have assembled there for a particular object to be achieved.
Okay, fine, good. Just tell me about abatement and conspiracy and the liability of an abettor.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, abatement is under section 107, which provides that abatement can be through 3 means. First is instigation, second is conspiracy along with some overt act, and third is facilitation. I'm unable to get the legal IPC term for it. And conspiracy.
Thank you. You know it. I understand. You have good knowledge of law, and that's very good. You should further go into it. If you had some specialization, for example, towards your final years, and like you said, BSc, forensic science. I mean, right now, not all the questions can be asked, but you should specifically study from BSc perspective. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Vasu. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
So, Vasu, you answered all the difficult questions on law. So now let me ask you a few easy ones.
Yes.
Now, can you tell me, in simple terms, just the 3 main aspects of the present controversy relating to Twitter?
Yes, sir. Sir, the first is that whether the rules which have been framed by the government, that is the intermediary rules, are in consonance with the IT Act, which is the enabling statute. Second, whether the rules are in conflict, are imposing unreasonable restriction on the intermediary and on the right of freedom to speech and expression. And third, wherein the Twitter has not obeyed by the rules, what kind of liability an intermediary would incur in such a scenario? Whether Section 67 will be invoked, and if it is to be invoked, that is safe harbor provision, then how can it be? How and what would be the implication of that invocation of Section 67?
What is the protection which Twitter was enjoying earlier, which is now being denied to it?
Yes, sir. So that is safe harbor provision, which is applicable to the intermediaries, which says that if there is a platform on which third parties are putting their views or putting something, then the platform or the intermediary will not be liable for the content posted on it. However, there are some caveats to it. For example, for instance, the intermediary should not be interfering with the content, and it should only act as a platform, not as a publisher. So if these things are satisfied, then the intermediary will get the protection of safe harbor provision under Section 67.
Okay. Father Stan Swami, rings a bell. There are two terms which are in use since in the last 1 week in regard to Father Stan Swami. One is death in custody.
Yes, sir.
And the second is custodial. What's the difference?
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, very much.
Yes,
was my question audible to you?
So if I may repeat, it's difference between custodial death and death in custody.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm not very much aware of this, but if I'm allowed to answer it on my limited knowledge, custodial death would be wherein the judicial custody has been granted to the police or to the executing authority, and during that the death has taken place. And the death in custody would be when a person is under arrest, need not be under judicial custody, then if the death takes place at that time.
Okay, since you are not sure, I'll not ask any further questions on this. Now, there is another controversy regarding Section 66A of the IT Act.
Yes, sir.
The Supreme Court is supposed to have held this act as void, but arrests continue to be taken, to be done under this act. What is this act about, and what's the controversy?
So, Section 66A of IT Act 2000 provides for blankets power to the executives with respect to arrest for when there is any content published online. The police can take action on that. So that has been held invalid in Shreya Singhal case, saying that it is against Article 19(1)A and it is exceeding or ultra vires Article 19(2), restrictions under Article 19(2). However, because the law, although struck down by the Supreme Court, still finds its place in the statutes, the executing authorities are using it to arrest or to frame charge sheets. And this has been recently pointed out by the Supreme Court that despite the struck down of that provision, that has been repeatedly invoked by different police authorities.
Now, speaking of the Supreme Court, you are doing something called judicial judgment writing.
Yes, sir.
Are there any laws, do's and don'ts about judgment writing?
Yes, sir. Sir,
as laid down by the Supreme Court?
Yes, sir. So alongside CPC, CRPC, there are various judicial pronouncements which says that a judgment should lay down the arguments of both the parties. The judgment should be concise and brief, and also the judgment should be timely. The reservation of judgment could be there, but that should not be prolonged, and timely judgment should be there.
Okay. Read a little more on this. There's a particular judgment, a 2010 judgment of the Supreme Court on this also. It elaborates. You have got interest in GM crops. We spoke on this last time also. Now tell me, how is genetic modification done? You're a BSc man, so tell me,
Yes, sir.
as a BSc guy now.
Yes, sir. So for that, we can use the plasmid method. In that, a foreign gene, plasmid is a DNA component which is outside the chromosomes. It's a circular DNA. So that is taken out, and a foreign gene is inserted in the plasmid through gene bombarding mechanism, and that plasmid is then inserted in the gene in the cell which we are trying to genetically modify. And then through the use of different enzymes which acts as scissors and also acts as pasting mechanism, we paste that desired gene into the chromosome or the DNA of the genetically modified cell.
To obtain what effect?
My apologies, if you could repeat the question.
No, to obtain what effect?
That depend on the research and what we are trying to achieve. So through genetical modification, we can achieve different things. If you're talking about crops, then the nutritional variety could be improved. The resistance with respect to drought, weather resistance or pest resistance could be enhanced. Also, the resistance to certain fertilizers and chemicals could be enhanced, as seen in different resistance to glyphosate in BT breeding. So,
okay. Now, my last question to you. What are the laws which govern ocean exploration? You mentioned that as one of your areas of interest.
Yes, sir. Sir, as far as my knowledge goes, there is no such laws, Indian laws about ocean exploration. However, we have a statute of 1976 which defines the territorial waters and exclusive economic zones. But as far as ocean exploration laws are there with respect to who can go and explore, licensing, the regulatory authority. In my limited knowledge, I don't think we have a statute on that per se, Indian statute for that. But
no, well, what does the United Nations law of the seas? What do they entitle or empower a nation with?
Sir, under UNCLOS, the international water has been classified into different parts, and EEZ is economic exclusive zone has been given is about up to 200 nautical miles. That has been for the sovereign power, and beyond that, high seas are for everyone. That could be explored.
Can a nation explore in the high seas?
Sir, he can, but there are regulatory control of International Seabed Authority. So, for example, India has taken the permission and India has granted the pioneer investor status by ISA when it comes to Indian ocean exploration. So,
right. Thank you, Vasu. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So, Vasu.
Hello, ma'am.
Tell me, why civil services?
Ma'am, the seeds of civil services were ingrained in me by my mother, who used to tell me stories about different civil servants during my childhood. And then during my college tenure, I saw that the civil servant can create great impact at the grassroots level. So during my different stints with different civil servants, I saw that although they have great responsibility, but the impact creation they had, that is huge. Also, the type of work they do and the challenging work they do is keep them all the toe and helps them to grow over a period of time. So
what
that's
motivated your mother to tell you stories specifically about civil servants? Any background there?
Ma'am, she has also been interested in civil services, okay. And
so you're going to fulfill your mother's dream, is it?
Hopefully, ma'am.
Great. And also explain me your order of preference, IAS, IPS, then IFS. Why that sequence?
Ma'am, Indian Administrative Service firstly provides for great diversity of work along with the impact which I talked about. Indian Police Service is an organization which is connected with the public at the same time with the administration. So police service is one of the most evident form of state or the government which is before the public. So that is, and also the law, the responsibility which a police officer.
IFS that much, is it?
Certainly not to say that. IFS is a very respected job, and however, because of some family reasons and personal reasons, uh, I have put it on third preference.
Okay. And what do you write in these emails that you send to the people?
Generally, these are comments on the editorials or my views on the editorials which have been published in the newspaper. So these are in form of comments.
Tell me the topic about the recent mail that you have sent, very recent.
My last email was to the editor of the Indian Express newspaper, and it was about the Advocates Act, which is going to complete 60 years this year.
Okay. Also, last question. Tell me the favorite place in Delhi of yours, of course.
That would be my house, ma'am.
Okay. Any other place outside your house?
Ma'am, Red Fort or the Chandni Chowk area.
Okay. And the Parathe Wali Gali, is it? Okay. Thank you, Vasu.
Thank you, ma'am.
What is the title of Maulana Azad's autobiography?
Sir, I'm not aware of this. So I read about that Maulana Azad's birthday is being celebrated as the Education Day. However, it falls in the month of October.
Is it not your birthday and we discussed it last time?
Yes, sir. Then I checked it online and I found it was in October. It was not in June, sir.
Let's double check.
I'll check it again, sir.
What is Panchashil in Jainism?
Yes, sir. So these are the 5 cardinal principles which a Jain has to observe. That is ahimsa, non-violence; satya, truth; asatya, that is non-stealing; aparigre, minimal of material collection; and brahmacharya, celibacy.
There is a concept that originally there were 4, and Vardhaman Mahavir is supposed to have added the 5th one. So what were original 4 and what is the addition by Vardhaman Mahavir?
Sir, I'm not aware of this, sir.
What is Shramana and Shravaka?
So Shraman is one who leaves the household in the search of truth or in the search of and moves on the path of salvation. And Shravak is someone who, while living in the household, is following the path of dharma. So Shravak has some basic duties, that is 8 basic duties of a Shravak, and Shraman has much more duties. Those are called Mahavrats, and Shraman follows Anuvrats. So Shravak follows Anuvrats. Sorry, sir?
3 Ratnas. There are 3 Ratna in Jainism.
So these are the tools to achieve salvation. That is Samyak Darshan, Samyak Gyan, and Samyak Charitra.
Out of which Samyak stands for what exactly?
So Samyak means right or good. Samyak in Hindi means which is correct or right. So Samyak Darshan would mean right vision. Samyak Gyan would mean right knowledge. And Samyak Charitra would mean right conduct.
What is Syadvad?
Sir, it's a theory which entails that there are different perspectives to a certain situation, and a person is not able to view all the perspective at the same time. So he has a limited vision, and when a person is able to view all the dimensions, that is through Keval Gyan, that becomes Shwadvad.
And Anekantavad?
So Anekantavad is the theory. Shwadvad and Anekantavad are both interrelated. Anekantavad says that different perspectives, and Shwadvad says because a person has limited knowledge, he is unable to get all the perspective at the same time. But through Keval Gyan, that is a step lower than Moksha, he can have that Shwadvad achieved.
Do the two have any link with quantum mechanics?
So if I may connect the Heisenberg's theory of uncertainty, which also says the same, that it's not possible to completely say that where the electron or a particle would be. Similar is the case with Anekantavad or Shwadvad, that you cannot very correctly say what is eternal truth or what is the absolute truth.
Good, Vasu. Thank you. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
So, Vasu, we were happy, very happy conducting this interview.
Thank you, sir.
You were outstanding last time. You were outstanding this time also.
Thank you.
So, we look forward to your going to the interview on August 3. Continue to be outstanding. And we look forward to your success.
Thank you.
Just a couple of reminders there. Just
Yes, sir.
one, like I initially asked you, what it means is keep yourself absolutely update of current events as of August 3rd. And any one of them can be picked up for discussion. So ensure that you are absent. Then while all your answers are bang on target, some of them are slightly lengthy. So if you can sharpen and brief, make those answers brief, then it would be fine. And check the specific details of NCT and NCR.
Yes, sir.
Then as Bhalla Sahab already reminded you, you need to brush up on Delhi culture and history. Lots of questions are possible. You are mentioning that as, but I have observed last time, and that continues even this time, that if you are not able to answer a couple of questions, you are not getting disturbed. That is a very good point. That is a very plus point. Continue with that.
Okay.
Then even Madam will agree that you are coming across as knowledgeable in law issues. So just continue with that excellence in law. And only towards the end to Renu Madam, you said hello Madam. When she said hello Vasu.
Yes, I also noticed that, sir.
Yes, the suggestion is used it to being formal. So say good morning or good afternoon. But it is excellent. Even last time you got 195. This time also it continues 195 to 200. You are in that range. And we look forward to your going beyond even 200. On August, we look forward to your going beyond 200.
Thank you, sir.
Which attempt is this for you, Vasu?
This is my third attempt and second interview.
Okay, so what was the thing with the previous interview?
Ma'am, I got 182 marks.
So 182 was a good score. Why you could not make it?
There was some in the papers of essay and ethics. There was I lagged behind.
Okay, you lagged behind. Yes.
Just have a look at the recent budget of Delhi also.
Yes,
sometimes
sir.
they basically the spend of Delhi on health, education, infrastructure. This is important. And recently, because in the COVID second wave, the oxygen became a problem. So what is exactly they have done? They have geared up in terms of meeting the third wave if it comes. This has been done actually. It has been done for most of the states now by the committee, Oxygen Committee, whose chairman happened to be actually our batchmate who just passed away this month, Mr. Guru Prasad Mahapatra. But Prime Minister is personally steering it. But Delhi has specifically, because of the large population, they have been geared up. So have a look at that also. That may be one of the things which may be asked. These are two major things which come to my mind. Otherwise, you are bang on target on most of the thing. Especially the technique is faultless. Main thing, not coming under pressure, smiling, giving answers to the point. All those things. Third thing in law, usually basically the law member sometimes tend to ask about the most important 10 judgments. Most of them. So just briefly know the operative part. Okay, A.K. Gopalan, Sahni, Indira Sahni versus all these are only 10, 12 are there which have changed the course of history. Even Keshwanand Bharti, basically he lost, but he saved the democracy and the spirit of constitution forever. So just, basic, this thing of you should remember. But you are going to go through this time. Best of luck.
Thank you, sir.
Best of luck.
All the best, Vasu.
All the
Thank
best.
you, sir.
Continue with smiling excellence and we look forward to your success.
Thank you. So just one question, like my answers have been generally been lengthy. what can I do for this? I'm trying to record videos, self-recorded. I'm seeing my self-recorded videos, but
Yeah. There is a rule I have suggested. I hope it helps you. I call it the first sentence rule. That is, on any question being asked, the first sentence you speak should be the direct answer to the question. That will make your answer responses sharper and officer-like.
okay.
I hope it helps.
Yes, sir.
Yeah? Another
Thank you,
rule
sir.
I call is 30-second rule. That is, under any circumstances, no single answer should keep going on for more than 30 seconds. So however complex the issue is, you should be able to summarize it in 30 seconds. And I believe that can be done.
And
Right?
so there were certain fact-bit questions on Delhi and generally, which I was not able to answer. Many of them I was not able to answer. So
I don't think you would lose marks there. But if you allowed yourself to be disturbed by that, then your marks would be reduced. But if you brush up and keep yourself ready with all questions on history, culture of Delhi, there will be an addition to your marks. Right?
Thank you, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
All the best, Vasu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Best.